Why is there a delay on this? Like actual. Can I get rid of that? I don't think I can change it now. Okay, whatever. Okay, whatever. I don't know what this room is gonna look like, to be honest. Yeah, so last time, as I'm sure we're all aware, we all watched, I was doing some reading. I was doing some research, doing some reading about insurance. And I got all the way to liability after like 4 hours. I don't think I'm going to be continuing that. I think it's time we learn about something else, right? I have an idea for what we can do. I don't know. Because I have an idea, and I could read that. I could read up on this, and last time it was just reading a Wikipedia page out loud. But maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll read this. You know what? Sure. This doesn't seem like a bad thing to read. We're going to be, I guess, reading this. You have to ignore the other tabs. I better show it. Where's Windair? Boom. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his own brow? Where's me? Why? Why? Why do you do this to me? I gotta give myself a little. There we go. There. Now it's we. You know, I was talking about this last time. I am a bit of a leftist. And, but I try to be like a normal, try not to get too obsessed with some of this stuff, especially when I'm talking with random people and I don't really know whatnot. I try. And I realize I tend to be annoying about a lot of this. But if you're tuning in, you probably know that. You're probably wondering, and I want to be honest with the people who watch this, and if anybody does, actually, besides me. Well, I don't watch them. Why would I? I'm living it, buddy. I think, so I'm not like a big theory guy. I'm not much of that. I think it's important to learn and pay respect because, I can say these things, but if I don't understand what I'm saying, then it's kind of foolishness. I'm thinking. So, and this is very made up, no, like I'm just going. I'm just saying things. It's a very raw experience. I don't really know. I'm not here to perform for you guys. I'm just here to contribute what I can, Also myself, I think this is helpful for me, and I hope it's helpful for you and others. And you might critique me, you can. You can say mean things in the comment, like you're dumb for falling for this, but honestly. Or you can, I'm not going to debate people in the comments. If anybody leaves any, I probably won't even read them. But you can leave them. I don't care. Also, yes, before anyone says, I am growing my hair out. Probably. It's getting kind of annoying. I don't really like the look of it all that much. But anyway, how about we get started? How about we read some theory about communism? Doesn't that sound exciting, guys? And you could say, why don't you read? Oh. Nope, that's the wrong thing. Why don't you read? And I'm like, boom, I got some theory for you, pussy. And I probably got like 3 pages in this, dude. It is like a very, very theory book. And it feels like it's been, translated. So this is like going to be a communism theory for dummies, essentially. Okay, I have my sweatshirt because I was thinking I was going to get warm. But it's annoying. And I have to fold laundry later. Remind me, or don't. I'm also listening to music, which I don't know if that helps me. It might make me more distracted. Last time, after a couple minutes, it didn't really matter. So, who wants to get reading? I like reading. I don't really like reading. Reading kind of sucks. But that's what this has been. I've started off, I was playing video games and going to talk about it, but it's like, it's just like wasting time. I don't fully know what I'm talking about, so it's not like, just like ramblings of an unhinged man, which isn't bad, but it's not really what I want. So, dude, it feels so weird to like jump in. Like I like the talking, I like the meandering, I like the walking around the subject. I don't actually want to get started. You know what I mean? So maybe we'll start with why I changed, and I'll provide a fun story to begin. It was a long time ago. It was probably, well, it might start a bit further back. I was in like high school, and I was probably junior year or something. And I was very, like up until this point, like obviously you just have like default political beliefs, right? And I was like big into memes and whatnot, big into joking around. And then sort of as, I feel like I should draw this in paint to help detail it. So let me say, actually, go to paint. Boom. Okay, actually. Here's paint. Here's paint chips. Okay, I'll go full. Why is it so? Okay, there we go. Much better. White. How thick do we want this? So in high school, it's like junior year or something. Year 3. I was on Instagram a lot. I'm treating you like you're retarded. Okay, you're not a Zoomer. So it was here. I'll draw this. I'll draw this. Boom. Political compass. You know how like the default, the American window is kind of like here. The default for American, everything's in the upper right quadrant. Because pretty much all politicians are capitalist and whatever. So those were most people. And I was here. I was definitely on the right. That's probably far. Whatever, doesn't matter. It's for hypothetical. Probably somewhere like there. Okay. And I know it has its problems, but it's kind of just like there by default, and then definitely and then there's like towards the end of high school, it was very. I was always into memes, but towards the end of high school, I started getting very like ironically, whatever. So I was doing a lot of irony, but you can't see that irony, but and there's definitely like very far right, authoritarian type jokes I was making, whatever. You know how it goes, and I was watching losers like Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk. Not so much Charlie Kirk. He was never really my speed. Steven Crowder, Jordan Peterson. Those were like the big 3 I would say I really was invested in. Those whatever you call them, alt-right pipeline guys. And later it even got more so. So it was like 16. I remember it was around like Trump election, and it was like the first one, and it was a very, very dark time in my life. Well, I don't know that. It wasn't like sad. It was just like looking back, it was kind of pathetic. It was definitely more probably even outside, like over here. It was like everything's about owning the libs, SJW cringe compilations, making edgy jokes about trans people, gay people, women. It wasn't and then after a while of this ironic like phase, because it was sort of like I don't know what I believe was essentially. There's like one part hanging out with my friends. I realized I don't know like what I believe. Like I just say things to say them to be funny, to get a reaction. It's like I don't know what I actually believe. So I mean that was here when I kind of figured that out. I was very very upper right quadrant, authoritarian, fascist adjacent, and then like high school ended, whatnot, and I didn't really change then, but sort of that summer after high school and whatnot, was it that summer? It's like the summer of 2019, then like COVID started. When did I start working? Because whatever. There were several months I didn't have a job. Classic communist, am I right? And I don't know why talking makes me short of breath. Probably because I went running earlier. I don't think that's why. But this music is very distracting me. Sorry. Maybe I'll just pause it. But then the silence is like deafening. And I think it wasn't that summer, but COVID started. People stopped where I was working like before. People stopped working for COVID because they offered they offered people they didn't have to work, whatever. And so that was when I started. And I don't know what exactly it was. Let me not do that actually. was probably this time. I had actually went to, I don't know why it made such an impact on me. You know, you never know what things will have a big impact on you. But I went and watched It Chapter 2 with some of my buddies. And at the beginning of the movie, there's like a gay hate crime that happens. And that really really bothered me, you know. It really, I mean, more than anything in that movie. I don't know, more than anything, because I didn't watch the first one, but that really like stuck with me. And I feel like I remember that part. I remember I was spending like a lot of time on TikTok, if I can say that. I don't know. I mean, whatever. You know how it works. You get suckered into it. And I found myself just going pretty much opposite. I don't know where exactly. Somewhere on the left, you know? I stopped believing in capitalism and whatnot. Stopped believing, because pretty much all throughout high school also, I wanted to join the military. That was like a big, big thing for me since I was... Do I grab it? Is it worth it? Nah, you can trust me. I got No Easy Day, I think it is. I'll just Google it, make sure. Yes, it is. I got No Easy Day. I read that and I was like, when did it come out? I read it shortly after it came out, probably 2012, 2013. I read that book, and I read American Sniper. And I always wanted to join the military, but pretty much after towards the end of high school, I didn't go right away, and then I stopped believing in it, and so I've never gone. And obviously, I think that's a good thing. And it just changed my mind. I just stopped believing in it. I don't know, like I don't know, I just started believing that how do I even phrase it? I don't know. That our current system of government, where the wealthy can do whatever they want, they can buy the politicians, they can all this. It just made me not believe it. Yeah, there's obviously some people on the left who helped me make that change. But I mean, I don't know, it's just kind of been a lot of, and yeah, pretty much ever since then I've just stayed on the left. Like, it's not like there hasn't been a ton of swaying. But yeah, so I don't know why I got this picture out. Now I'm somewhere over whatever in this. I'll just draw a big circle. I could take one of those. Who wants to see me take political compass test? Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Would it actually? Okay, I'm getting rid of this. Okay, yes, we can take that. We can do that. I'm not doing anything else. Okay, I did not want to do that at all. You pillock. What? Okay. Turns out pressing escape does not do it. Boom. Okay, who wants to watch this? Why do I have to be so fucking white? Okay, 2001. As well as many teachers and academics who continue to use our work. Take the gay test. Before taking the test, please note this isn't a survey and these aren't questions, they're propositions. Propositions are very different. are a very different proposition. When to question the logic of individual ones that irate you is to miss the point. Some propositions are extreme and some are not. That's how we can show you whether you lean towards extremism or moderation on the compass. Responses should not be overthought. Some of them are intentionally vague. Their purpose is to trigger reactions in the mind. Dark yay. Polski. Where is that Queen's English? You can't see him. Why is it so white? Can I ask? Can I ask this? You also can't even read it, bruh. What is the point of this, bruh? What did that do? Help? Did I just delete everything in my life? I'm super happy with that. How do I undo? Excuse me, how do I undo? I don't even undo. Okay, looks like I'm just host. It turns out, help. I'll ask help. Whatever. Fuck you. Okay, it's all gone. Everything's gone. Everything I worked hard and found is gone. I just reset my life. Yes, page 1. Ugh! I'm white again. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the white guy. I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. 250. Who wants that? There we go. There we go. Where's me? There's me. Here, we can go here and a bit smaller. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interest of trying to, I'd always support my country, whether it's right or wrong. Strongly disagree. Right. No one chooses their country of birth, so it is foolish to be proud of it. My initial thoughts are yes. I'll say yes. Our race has many superior qualities compared to other races. The human? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree. Military action that defies international law. I don't know what international law is, buddies. I will say, sure. Sure, I don't know what international law is. I have a guess, but there's now a roaring fusion of information and entertainment. I think the trouble is, I'll say yeah. There's a lot of, especially podcast people, when I think of it, about it, that this is. But that also appeals to some people, but when you're kind of a knob at it, like me, I'll admit it, like myself, it, yeah, you be careful when you get your information from people who are entertaining, I think, is what I'm saying. Because if you just find it entertaining, what they're talking about, that's great. But you obviously have to make all information somewhat entertaining, otherwise no one would read it. Okay, now the economy. We're talking attitudes here. I don't like putting on this accent. Not the FDSE index. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Come on. Duh. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Disagree. Agree. Disagree. I don't know. I don't care. I'll say agree. Maybe. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Agree. From each according to his ability. I want to say about this one. They have not shown otherwise. They've never shown otherwise. So that's why I agree. From each according to his ability. I wonder who said this. Karl Marx, motherfucker. Agree. I mean, it's my guy. I think I have to strongly agree. I mean, even when I take it out of that guy's mouth, from each according to his ability. I mean, yeah, duh. The free market, the free of the people. I mean, freedom's fake. It's a sad reflection of our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled consumer product. True. Agree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Based. Who said that? Reason I think that is, I don't know, because I think things like this destroy our community. Because the sign of wealth is having a ton of land and doing nothing with it. Essentially, it's just having open space. Currently, that's why I notice like super wealthy people in expensive areas will have land if they can, because it's a sign of wealth. But I really do agree with that. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. Are these questions made for me? I mean, I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with it per se, but it's not like a worthwhile endeavor. Like, it doesn't. Like, I have an issue with it the way things are, right? But I don't think it's like something we should strive for or whatever. And people who do make simply manipulating money is not contributing nothing, but I think it's not something we should glorify. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. I'm not sure what that means. Can I say that? Theory of practice of shielding countries' domestic industries for competition by taxing imports. I actually hit what? I pressed F12 again. What? I should stop doing this. I should really stop doing this. Okay, we're restarting, I guess. Preserve humanity, then the interests of agree. I support my country. Don't choose their country, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Disagree. Enemy of humanity is a friend. Disagree. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I'll just say agree. I'm sure there's some. Agree. There's no worrying confusion of it. Whatever. You heard what I said. Divided more by class. Agree. Controlling inflation. What did I say last time? Sure. Because corporations cannot be trusted to they require regulation. Yep. Agree. Free market for the people. Disagree. I don't think that means anything. Agree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Agree. There's a rule that many personal fortunes are made by. Agree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. So taxing imports. I mean, I think I agree. Only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Yeah, I strongly disagree. The rich are too highly taxed. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. What do you mean? I'm going to disagree. Because I think what this question's getting at, I know it says don't think about it too long, so I'm not. That's why I disagree already, and I'm explaining to you guys who care. Because I think that diminishes the quality of care from those who can't afford. Because when everybody, because the best are going to want to get paid by those who can pay more, right? The best doctors, the best nurses. And that takes away from others being able to get that best care or higher quality care. So that's why I say strongly disagree. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Duh. I think we should. I don't know the government. We should. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability. What does that mean? A genuine free market does not exist. And that would also... yeah, even free market people should agree with that. Multinationals. Page 3 of 6. Your personal socialist. Abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Disagree. Boom. Destroyed. All authority should be questioned. Boom. Agree. Boom. Destroyed. Eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Is this like the actual saying or like an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth? I disagree. In fact, maybe I'll put strongly disagree. Just because someone takes my eye out and I can't see doesn't mean it's worthwhile to take theirs out. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. Disagree. I think libraries are important. And you say theaters and museums. But I think having access to information is important and necessary. That's why. Yeah. Okay. That's why. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. I do think should not. I do think school attendance is better for children when they have regular school attendance. But you gotta, yeah. It doesn't say anything else. I think they should make classroom attendance compulsory. What does that mean? Yes, I think they should, but I think schools should also be worthwhile, which they're not in America. Sorry to say. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. No. I wonder who they're asking that question for. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I don't know if physical abuse, physical violence against children is the right way to. And look, it doesn't say perfect parents. I think my parents were pretty good. They spanked me. And I think that was an easier punishment than some other things. So I don't really care. It's not, like I don't really care. Can I say that? I'll just do disagree. Because every punishment you have for children is inherently mean. It's gonna make you less liked by your kids. In theory, in the short term. I don't think kids should be hit for no reason. But I think sometimes, yeah, I don't know. I don't have kids. It's not really a big concern of mine right now, but it's natural for children to keep some secret for their parents. I agree. But I mean, I think that it's natural is the important part. I don't know if it's a good thing, but I think kids naturally like doing things that their parents don't know about. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Agree! Look at this. Maybe I shouldn't show it, actually. I live in the great state of Michigan. Woo! We pay the most for health care. Or no, we pay the most for auto insurance. That's what it is. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Disagree. I think it's to equip them with knowledge, a thirst for knowledge. I think that's the primary function of a school. To teach kids what happened in history, to teach kids different interesting subjects and things. So yeah, strongly. I'm just going to hit strongly. I want to make sure I know what that's saying, because sometimes it's like, oh, it should not, or whatever, you know? Yeah. People with serious inheritable diseases should not be allowed to reproduce. I wonder who you're asking that question to. Serious inheritable? What does that mean? Like diabetes? What is a serious inheritable disease? No. I think I disagree. Most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I disagree. I don't really know what that means. I mean, I sort of do, but like, I think the most important thing is to question authority. Maybe. I don't know. Accept. I think if... I don't know what this means. Most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. What else would a child learn? No. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I'll say it strongly. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Based? I do think some cultures are more... I don't know better, but... But it's easy for me to say, but I don't think so. Because it's easy to be blind to your own struggles and your own faults, and see the faults in others. So yeah, I strongly agree. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I mean, because I don't know. I get why you'd say this. But I still think they shouldn't expect it, but they should get it. Is that what I'm saying? Sure. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Sometimes. Where's the sometimes option? Disagree. Look, sometimes you got to think about it, but sometimes you got to distract yourself. You know, you can't ruminate on something. There's such thing as ruminating on something too long. So I think, but sometimes you got to think about it. You know. But what is thinking solve sometimes? First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. What does that mean, bro? Disagree. I don't know what you're looking for people to be fully integrated. My grandpa's a first generation immigrant. You would argue he's more integrated than I am. So, well, you would have argued that. He's passed away now, but I mean, he was pretty American, you know. Taught me how to play poker somewhat. He taught me nothing is truly free. And I'm like, the animals that love ink are. You would teach me to be careful when you call someone a cheater. You're talking about poker, and I mean, I would always call my siblings cheaters when I lost. But I get the sentiment. You shouldn't accuse random people of cheating. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. No. Living proof, data mining centers in anywhere, and they just suck up all the water and destroy farmland, and yeah. Anyway, no broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. No, I'm going to disagree. PBS, that's public funded, and that is great stuff. Because I think we do have things as a society that we ought to have people believe. That's why I said that. Page 46. And how you see the wider society. I guess this is all I'm doing. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Duh. Everyone would agree with that. Terrorism's fake. Made up by the government. They say, oh, we're deeming you terrorists, even though you were rebels and we helped you 10 years ago. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments and delayed progress. I mean, what is this? That is just an advantage. Like, this should just be true or false. It doesn't avoid all the arguments. Well, it does. Yeah. That's just true. Although the electronic eggs makes official... Disagree. Especially modern day? Come on. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Not true at all. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I don't really believe in the death penalty. Most of the time we're wrong about it anyway. And the other times, it ends up costing more money. And I think you can change. I think people can change. Even if they've done a serious crime, I think they're capable of change. And even if they're separated from us, they could still be a benefit to others and whatnot if they do change. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. You can't always have someone below. Poor children do not really have anyone below them, except maybe classmates that they pick on. Because of whatever. You know what I'm saying. Strongly disagree. Well, we should understand these things don't benefit. Because the one above always takes the pressure, or the one in the middle takes the pressure from the one above, and oftentimes abuses those below. And so you're just always having people be abused below, and yourself are being mistreated. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. You can't say that at all. That mine doesn't make sense. Who am I? Who am I? Who is any of us to not consider abstract art? The problem with abstract art, and all art in general, is the wealth surrounding it. Is that it becomes a symbol of wealth instead of a symbol of our common struggle or whatever, or anything, really. And it just becomes a money symbol. Yeah, that's my point. So that's why some art, which you would say that shouldn't be considered art, is that way. But oftentimes fascists try to control art and say, oh, it's not art unless it's a picture of a realistic angel or whatever. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Disagree. I think the punishment is they're separated. Um, but it does. I don't think that means we should be cruel to them, but I think they should be separated. And that is often their punishment. I don't know if they need to be berated or beaten or whatever, or have a constant whatever threat. So I think rehabilitation is more important than punishment. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I mean, yeah, sure. That is just categorically true. This should be another true false. Because, I'm sure you know this, some are not going to rehabilitate. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. What is the point of this question? Rehabilitate some. Sure, I agree. Some criminals will not change, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Oh, disagree. Because I saw it try. It's not a waste of time to try, you know? Everything is a waste of time. The time I spend biking or running is a waste of time. You could say, well, it extends your life a little bit. Sure, maybe. But it also takes away a couple minutes each day from my life. Or a couple hours sometimes. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. I'm going to disagree. Strongly disagree. I think they're... business person? Am I not a manufacturer? I work in manufacturing. I think they're both equally important, I'd say. This one maybe not. But people who manufacture are just as important as writers and artists. Come on. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Actually, I might stray. If you're a mother, do it. I don't care. Do what you want. I think if you're a mother... No, it doesn't have to be a mother. Mothers could have a career and the father could stay at home. I don't have an issue with that. Hey, listen. If there's a rich woman listening to this, or a woman who wants a career listening to this, and they have some money and we could afford to keep a parent at home, I got no issue with staying at home. I like hanging around with kids. They're fun. I get along with kids quite well. So I would have no issue being a stay-at-home dad at all. So, boom. Get destroyed. Almost all politicians promise economic growth, but we should heed the warnings of climate science that growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb global warming. Strongly agree, actually. And I don't think scientists said growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb global warming. But the growth needs to be right. The growth needs to be correct. If you believe climate science, if you believe the premises of this, right, that global warming's happening, and that it comes at the expense of growth, I would agree. If the world is kaput in 5 years, what point is economic growth? Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. I strongly disagree, especially if the establishment is a bunch of malarkey, as our prez would say. 2 more pages, bro. I don't want to do any more. If you got through that okay, you'll find these propositions on religion a breeze. Astrology accurately explains many things. I don't know, man. I'm going to say disagree. What am I to say? You cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree. Because charity is there when the government fails. Well, what I believe the government should be fails. Some people are naturally unlucky. Yeah, some people have disabilities. It is important. I don't know if I'd consider it naturally. Yeah, sure I would. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. That was really easy. They weren't lying. Sex. Boom! Finally, a look at sex. Let's go. I've never had sex. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. Sorry, I'm not really a religious guy. Disagree. I think it's cool. I think it's cool as heck, brother. Same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. I think they should be able to have kids. That's how forward-thinking I am. Agree. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Boom! Agree, baby! What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I know what they're saying. I agree. I did agree to the right one. Okay. Because child birth rates are kind of the business of the state, but outside of that, no one can feel naturally homosexual. I don't know what this means. I agree. I still don't think it matters. Now that I answered it. Oh wait. I don't think it's explainable, but I don't think it matters. I don't think it's a moral issue. So these days, openness about sex has gone too far. Disagree. Strongly disagree. I'm very open. Last week I was very open about some things to one of my buddies. And I don't know if I should have been. But whatever. I don't know. What would... No, I don't think so. I think we're kind of obsessed about it, but I don't think it's an openness problem. I think it's just we've got nothing else going on. Maybe that's a reflection of me. All right, who wants to see? The starting point was in 2001. We recognized the inadequacies of the standard political measure, left, right. What does that mean? Come on. Yep. Economic, social, yep. Librarian, yep. North Korea, China, Saudi Arabia, Singapore, Uruguay, Switzerland. True. Maybe. And now, I've taken this before, and I think my scores were right along this axis, somewhere on the left. I don't remember where. I don't know which direction's left for you. Over here. And somewhere along the XY, the Y axis. Nope, the X axis. And a bit above the Y. What? No, it was on the left on the X axis, and then a bit up on the Y. Okay? Oh. No! No! What's the joke about me? No. They're going to call me a domestic terrorist. Okay, anyway. Can you take a screenshot? Snipping tool. I'm snipping that for sure, man. Boom. Okay, subtract. Control minus. Okay. I am in the same spot as, Ted Kaczynski. Look how based I am. Sure, man. Sure. Whatever. F11. Who wants to read up on communism? Oh, we did something fun and enjoyable. Let's go to. Nope, this is not what I want at all. This is something different. It was suggested at the top, and I was like, oh, I'll look. I'll go there. Do not. Okay, who wants to read about it? Say me. You will be very happy in a few minutes. Wait, Stephen King was actually in the It movie? It Chapter 2? Alright, let's read about communist theory. That'd make me an ANCOM, brother. Communist political thought and theory are diverse, but share several core elements. The dominant forms of communism are based... Wikipedia says it, man. Come on now. Come on, man. Quit joking around. Can I actually... What? Okay. That's not what I want at all. I want video. There we go. I feel like that's much better. Here, where's this? Boom. There we go. How's that? That look better? I guess I could not have it full screen then, but... the dominant forms of communism are based on Marxism or Leninism, but non-Marxist versions of communism also exist, such as anarcho-communism, that's where I just scored, and Christian communism, which remain partly influenced by Marxist theories such as libertarian Marxism and humanist Marxism in particular. Common elements include being theoretical rather than ideological, identifying political parties not by ideology but by class and economic interest, and identifying with the proletariat. According to communists, the proletariat can avoid mass unemployment only if capitalism is overthrown. In the short run, state-oriented communists favor state ownership of the commanding heights of the economy as a means to defend the proletariat from capitalist pressure. Some communists are distinguished, myself, by other Marxists in seeing peasants and shareholders of property as possible allies in their goal of shortening the abolition of capitalism. And smallholders? What is a smallholder, bro? It doesn't want to search it, actually. For Leninist communism, such goals, including short-term proletarian interests to improve their political and material conditions, can only be achieved through vanguardism. I've heard of the Vanguard Party? Is that what it's called? Oh, this is right there. Those conscious and disciplined workers. Cool. The latest form of socialism from above that relies on theoretical analysis to identify proletarian interests rather than consulting the proletarians themselves, as is advocated by libertarian communists. Oh, that's very interesting. So, isn't that a class? Come on. Those conscious and disciplined workers. I mean, whatever, I don't know. I'm no expert. When they engage in elections, Leninist communists' main task is that of educating voters in what are deemed their true interests rather than in response to the expression of interest by voters themselves. When they've gained control of the state, Leninist communists' main task was preventing other political parties from deceiving the proletariat, such as by running their own independent candidates. This vanguardist approach comes from their commitments to democratic centralism, in which communists can only be cadres, i.e. members of the party who are full-time professional revolutionaries, as was conceived by Vladimir Lenin. Organizational principle of most communist parties, in which decisions are made by a process of vigorous and open debate amongst party membership, and actions is subsequently binding upon all members of the party. I mean, I do get that. Like, it's nice to not have to vote on everything, you know? I mean, I also get the theory of having people vote on everything. And the point is, you don't have to vote if you're not interested. Right? So if you don't care, you just throw it away, essentially. But so that sounds more like republic communism. You know? Isn't that what republic is? Like elected officials? Right? Marxist communism. Marxism is a method of socioeconomic analysis that uses a materialistic interpretation of historical development, better known as historical materialism, to understand social class relations and social conflict, and a dialectical perspective to view social transformation. It originates from the works of 19th century German philosophers Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. He was a businessman. Lifelong friend. That's cool. As Marxism has developed over time into various branches and schools of thought, no single definitive Marxist theory exists. I'm going to move my butt forward on the chair. Marxism considers itself to be the embodiment of scientific socialism, but is not modeled on an ideal society based on the designs of intellectuals, whereby communism is seen as a state of affairs to be established based on any intelligent design. I don't know why I'm like hiccuping all the time. Rather, it is a non-idealist attempt at the understanding of material history and society, whereby communism is the expression of a real movement with parameters that are derived from actual life. According to Marxist theory, class conflict arises in capitalist societies due to contradictions between the material interest of the oppressed and exploited proletariat, a class of wage laborers employed to produce goods and services. That's me, and probably you, and the bourgeoisie, the ruling class that owns the means of production and extracts its wealth through appropriation of the surplus product produced by the proletariat in the form of profit. This class struggle that is commonly expressed as the revolt of a society's productive forces against its relations of production results in a period of short-term crises as the bourgeoisie struggle to manage the intensifying alienation of labor experienced by the proletariat, albeit with varying degrees of class consciousness. In periods of deep crisis, the resistance of the oppressed can accumulate in a proletarian revolution, which, if victorious, leads to an establishment of the socialist mode of production based on social ownership of the means of production, to each according to his contribution, and production for use. As opposed to production for profit. As the productive forces continued to advance, the communist society, i.e. a classless, stateless, humane society based on common ownership, follows the maxim from each according to his ability to each according to his needs. That was in the thing. One second, I'll be right back. I'm probably not going to get too far in this, by the way, if you wanted to know. I'm so fucking tired. While it originates from the works of Marx and Engels, Marxism has developed into many different branches and schools of thought, with the result that there's now no single definitive Marxist theory. Different Marxian schools place a greater emphasis on certain aspects of classical Marxism, or rejecting or modifying other aspects. Many schools of thought have sought to combine Marxian concepts and non-Marxian concepts, which has led them to contradictory conclusions. How do I get rid of this? There's a movement towards the recognition that historical materialism and dialectical materialism remain the fundamental aspects of all Marxist schools of thought. Marxism-Leninism and its offshoots are the most well-known of these and have been a driving force in international relations during most of the 20th century. Classical Marxism is the economic, philosophical, and sociological theories expounding by Marx and Engels, as contrasted with later developments in Marxism, especially Leninism and Marxism-Leninism, Orthodox Marxism is the body of Marxist thought that emerged after the death of Marx and which became the official philosophy of the socialist movement as represented in the Second International. Oh, is it a political party? Until World War I in 1914. Orthodox Marxism aims to simplify, codify, and systematize Marxist method and theory by clarifying the perceived ambiguities and contradictions of classical Marxism. The philosophy of Orthodox Marxism includes the understanding that material development, advances in technology, and the productive forces is the primary agent of change in the structure of society and of human social relations, and that social systems and their relations, example, feudalism, capitalism, and so on, become contradictory and inefficient as the productive forces develop, which results in some form of social revolution arising in response to the mounting contradictions. This revolutionary change is the vehicle for fundamental society-wide changes and ultimately leads to the emergence of new economic systems. As a term, Orthodox Marxism represents the methods of historical materialism and of dialectical materialism, and not the normative aspects inherent to classical Marxism, without implying dogmatic adherence to the results of Marx's investigations. My throat does not want to talk this much, like at all right now. They do not call me the throat goat. At all. No one has called me that. Intentionally, no one has called me that. So I feel like I should do something else. But I think it's important to learn. You know what? I will suffer through this for us. How do they do it? That's what they do? Sorry. And so what they're saying is, dude, there's so many big words. Can I say it? Can I say it? They're big words. Basically nothing. Like, what is this? What is any of this? Marxism includes understanding that material development is the primary agent of change, yes, in the structure of society and human social relations. The social systems and the relations become contradictory and inefficient as the productive forces develop. Who wants to create a new theory? Who wants to create a new theory right now? It's called Jaubism. Jaubism. And it's when I get everything, you get nothing. Sorry, I'm just... Because there's too many big words. That's the problem. That's the problem with these people. I mean, I'll say it. This is why nobody is interested. Like when I was reading about insurance, everything was super clear, made a lot of sense, you know? How unsurprising that this is what you get. You just get a bunch of mumbo jumbo, a bunch of words combined into nothing. And it's just confusing. Like, it's so... That is also the problem with theory people. They're just always full of themselves and always want to think they're better than you. And it's sad, it's pathetic. Things are bad. They're saying... See, they just use such big words. That's why you can't read it. That's why it's like a nightmare to read and keep any of it. That's why I think it's the biggest issue. Basically, it's saying that material development is the agent of change, and that the contradictions are what cause these things to fall. and people come up with new ideas. So feudalism, I don't know, wasn't enough. The rich hog the kings and queens hogged the food and wealth and got really fat and like, hey, we want more. Capitalism. Now companies own the wealth and food, and you think, oh, they work harder, but the reality is they don't. Like Elon Musk doesn't work like a billion times harder than me. I mean, sorry, he just doesn't. No matter how autistic he is and how much he likes to sleep on the floor in his factories, allegedly, he does not work a billion times harder than me. Sorry. You could say he works one or two. Pay him 1 or 2 times as much as me. I don't care. You can do that. I don't think he's works a billion times as hard as me. See, it's just like they suck the fun out of everything. You know what I'm saying? Like this is why they're not doing better, because they suck the fun out of everything. It's why, like, I don't know if I want to say it. I was gonna say it's why no one takes them seriously. You know, it's just the theory's too complex. It got to be simplified down. That's why people always get it wrong. You know, you'll have people be like, "Oh, communism. Okay, let's do that. Actually, new fun idea." I don't know if I want to do this. I'm going incognito. Okay. Oh. Let's critique people. Let's critique someone. This is why you get stupid people like this. Which one of these liars do we want to watch, huh? Okay, this is how you get people like this. Okay, let's go do something else, right? This is really annoying. What? I don't even want to watch this fucking cock. Oh. Yes. Let's see if I'm an expert at owning the chuds. What? This is not here, guys. Guys, it's not here. Where is it? Did it just display the whole window? Fuck it. Let's watch a guy who's really old and see if I can own him, eh? What? How come this goes full screen? Fuck this. Oh wait, because it's just my screen. Let's see if I can own this guy, huh? What do we say? Oh wait, you can't hear. Let's see if we can own this loser who's smoking
your thoughts and explanation on the differences between socialism, fascism, and communism, especially with this last election cycle. I feel like we saw those words thrown around a lot, but I just wanted to know, like, what exactly are the differences between those three?
So the word,
dude, I'm gonna say it. If you smoke cigars, you are a twat. You're a nitwit. You're a cotton-headed ninny-muggin. I don't know what that means, but you're a loser. You're like, smoking cigars is gayer than vaping. I'm saying it. I don't care that it's real tobacco. Okay. Cigarettes. This is how it goes. coolest, cigs. Least cool, cigars. Just above cigars is vaping. Okay.
Words are
What?
thrown around. That is
differences between those three.
Yeah, what are the differences between
the
these?
words are thrown around. That is
What a genius. This guy's off to a
largely
hot
true,
start.
and they've taken on a life of their own. I'll tell you what they really mean, and I'll tell you what they mean in usage. Not the same thing. So
Okay,
let's
yes.
see.
Tell me,
Fascist,
old
socialist,
man.
communist. Okay. So fascist is what
Right,
left-wingers use to describe everyone who's anti-left. This is
Say it. Say what it
true,
is then.
by the way. I'm not kidding about that. My field of study in graduate school at Columbia, of all
Okay, what is
places,
it?
was the left, was communism. I studied Russian in order to be able to read Soviet communist papers. I visited communist countries repeatedly. And
Good for you.
the first to do this was Stalin, the monster, tens of millions of people slaughtered, countries enslaved. If a human could be...
Bro, say what it is. You're a minute in.
He came
Say
to
it.
power. See,
Where are we talking
let's
about this
see,
guy?
Lenin died in 24.
We're talking about Lenin.
24, if I'm not mistaken. So he came to power.
let's
about
say.
1928.
Let's
And
see.
He battled for power. In the
He's
30s
halfway through.
with Kamenev, Zinoviev.
He's
Bukharin,
halfway talking
and
about.
Trotsky.
He's halfway through talking
So
about
there were
fascism.
four
He hasn't even
rivals
mentioned
of
it.
Stalin. And Trotsky, who was the founder of the Red Army and the Communist Party. with
Okay,
Lenin,
okay,
fled
we're
the
getting
Soviet
there.
Union, and he fled to Mexico, where Stalin sent some goons to kill him with an ice pick, and they did kill him with an ice pick. Stalin introduced the idea that if you oppose the left, you're a fascist. Basically, if you oppose me, the leading leftist, you're a fascist. So fascist
I mean, you just
became
look cool.
the
Sorry
term
to say.
that anyone anti-left was called to the American elections at this day, or even in Europe. Not just leftists, the liberals.
He hasn't even said a word for what it is.
Liberal and left.
Say what it is, bro.
They-
You
they
got a
frequently
quarter
will
of
say
the
that
time left.
Anti-leftists are fascists. What is a fascist? Fascist is essentially
Okay, here we go.
ultra-nationalist, anti-democratic, authoritarian regime. Okay, so Italy
yep.
had it. They used the term first. Fascism comes from
We're going there.
from
So,
the-
but yeah,
from an Italian
I would
word.
agree.
Mussolini was the obvious example. Hitler was a fascist, but Hitler was really
This guy
a
talk
Nazi.
faster.
Nazism was a more severe form because Nazism introduced what is not necessarily part of fascism, racism. Nazism was
True.
race-based.
They usually
fascism,
goes hand in hand.
As for Mussolini, fascism
Usually
was
about
just fascism.
superiority,
Mussolini,
but it's also
to
about
the best of my
national superiority. So that's
knowledge, was not particularly an anti-Semite, for example. But Hitler.
yes, true. But it usually does have that. I mean, it be like it pretty much always has that racism factor, right? What a good photo to pause on. Because you think your nation is superior to other nations. And nations are made up sometimes of one dominant race or ethnicity. Like Italy, probably mostly Italians. Now it's changing somewhat, but you think, I'm sure Hitler thought, come on, Chris was on a mustache, that the Germans were superior, right? This isn't shocking. That's why he killed Poles and Slavs and Eastern Europeans and everyone, pretty much, because he thought Germans were better than every other country and race, and that Germany should be for the Germans. So it kind of always has that racism factor in it. Because you think your nation, which is made up of your race usually, is superior. Now it's getting less so for American fascism. It often doesn't have as much. It often has racism, but it's often more discreet. Because there's so much, whatever. There's already a lot of diversity, but there is still a dominant white race here. So there are some people, I'm not going to mention names, but who are Nazis or who are fascists in America. And I think America's getting that way with Trump's attempt to evade the rule of law, to break the rule of law, go against, for example, the Oregon governor's wishes, the Chicago, is it mayor's wishes of, and he's sending trying to send federal agents into these cities when they're not wanted there. And he tried, whatever, and he got sued for like spreading election misinformation, and yeah, he's just trying to overthrow the Constitution.
Of course, the great Jew hater of all time. So
What?
fascism.
Did you say?
What Hitler was, of course, the great Jew hater of all time. So
Great Jew hater of all time. That's quite a title, man. I mean, I think if Hitler heard this old geezer call him that, he'd be like, "You got that right, buddy."
fascism. But Hitler was, of course, the great Jew hater of all time.
The great Jew.
Fascism
It's not. It's kind of funny. Why are you glazing him?
is the ultranationalist, authoritarian government. It suppresses democracy, and it is
Yeah, sure.
ultranationalist, among other things, but those are the major ones. So both socialist and communist, they're on the left.
What is China?
Socialist is one who believes in socialism. Obviously, socialism is a bigger and bigger government, where the government takes care
I'm just
of
being
the
silly.
social order, if you will. The bigger the government, the more likely you are to head towards socialism. But socialism does not abolish mom and pop stores. You could still keep Dennis's pizza parlor open under a socialist government.
Based and true,
Generally
Bill.
speaking, they will nationalize big things. The railroads.
Like things you need, for example, like electricity, transportation, information, housing. That's crazy. Food access, water access. What corrupt individual would do such a
The
thing?
oil
Come on.
industry, etc.
Come on. Who would make sure that these businesses that affect everyone's life and can destroy lives actually benefit the people? Who would want that? Not me. Do you? Okay,
Communist
anyway.
allows no free
How do you know?
enterprise whatsoever. When I visited the Soviet Union, there wasn't
That's not even true. That's not even true. Bro, okay, this one's a lie.
a single prize whatsoever. When I visit, communist allows
Well,
no
it might.
free enterprise whatsoever.
It's just a stateless, classless, moneyless society. So essentially, yeah, but like, can I say something? Can I say something maybe mean, maybe stupid? I don't think the joy in life is running a bagel shop. You can make bagels. For your friends, maybe. But I don't think one of the great joys of life is owning a store. Can I say that? It's not like a life goal to own a store. I still think you can't really like sell things. You can still help people by making bagels. That's my example right now. Okay, I don't know why that's my example. I don't even really eat bagels, but you can still help people by making bagels and feeding them with them. Just because you're not like making money off it, you're helping your neighbor. Is that bad? What a scumbag. This guy just wants to help his neighbor.
When I visited the Soviet Union,
Anyway.
there wasn't a single private restaurant. All you had was restaurant, which is Russian for restaurant, and that's all.
This guy knows Russian. This guy knows the language.
Or place
Sorry,
that sold
I'm being
bread
real
would say
nitpicky.
chleb, which is bread in Russian. Not Vladimir's chleb joint, just chleb, because it was owned by the
Can you say something mean? I'm not going to say it.
state. And
I'm not going to say it,
but
actually.
communist is
That's
is
such a
not
bad
just
thing.
Economic. communist is a suppression of essentially all individuality because of the belief that everybody should
Not true.
end up in the same place. It's not for equality, it's
Not
for
true.
equity. Equality is opportunity, equity is result.
Not true. Well, okay, let me go back, okay?
The belief that
Oh,
suppression
the individuality
of
part.
essentially all individuality
Let's go one at a time.
because of the
Suppression of individuality? Not true. These are dictatorships. That, I'm sorry, has class and a state. That doesn't sound very communism to me. Let's do the big two parts. And the problem is with these, in my opinion, I'm no expert. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. But with these places, especially when they started, think about how they started. They had a lot of enemies. A lot of powerful enemies. I mean, America at the time wasn't so powerful. But oftentimes they started in hardship. There was a ton of civil unrest, a ton of wars when both these countries started. For Russia, you have World War I and II, and then the Cold War. Because the October Revolution was in like 1914, 1917. And they were involved in the First World War. It would have been like 17, because I think it was at the end of the war. They had that First World War. They had the Second. They had a bunch of like conflicts with Japan. You know what? I should look into it. But the point is, both China, also North Korea, and Russia, those are the big three I'll talk about. And even Cuba had a ton of things going against them. And oftentimes, when you start that way, it's a lot harder to start a democracy. The United States of America, we did not have that issue. We had to fight off the British for our independence right away. And then like the next real conflict was like the War of 1812. So there wasn't like a lot of, like, it was founded in 1776 and there was the War of 1812. It's what, 50 years or something? So we were able to have time of peace to start democracy, to start that process. And thankfully, I'll say it, the founding fathers liked democracy. Or like republic, whatever. They liked not having a monarch. George Washington didn't want to be a king. He liked having goat teeth or horse teeth or whatever, but I think when your country starts in a bloodied time, you often have a dictatorship. Which I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think dictatorship is best, but I think that's just the way it was. And then later they had the U.S. and other countries that have tried to have socialism or communism often get destroyed by American intervention, especially in South and Central America, but even in Korea, Vietnam. These places we just intervened to stop the spread of this evil. But yeah, you can still have individuality. The point of communism is not to take that away, because the theory is that we have things we like to do, and most of the time they're different. And the things oftentimes are within the realm of things that you know, right? Or that your parents know, or you know. So it's not like you just like make things up. You say, my nose is so itchy, I don't know why. For example, some of the things surrounding me when I was growing up was like, well, not right, but like in my early teen years, were like YouTubers and the military, police. these are things you don't really want to contribute. And I think you want to help. You want to help. You want to contribute. You want to be part of something bigger. Almost naturally. You want to have an influence yeah. And so that's what, you can still be a person. You can still whatever, but it's not, like, we like to pretend everybody in China or Russia is a monolith. Especially Soviet Russia. No. Like, you could interact with any Chinese person, any person in China who lives in China, and they will all be different. They might be similar, but they're going to be different. They're not, I hate to say it, not all Chinese people are the same. It just, I don't know, like, you can still do different things. It's not about spending all your time. I don't know, what he thinks it is. Anyway.
Everybody should end up in the same place. It's not for equality, it's for equity. Equality.
I don't think it's for, what? I don't think it has anything to do with, well, it does have to do with equality. It's saying people should be treated equally. Like, there shouldn't be, because the theory is that money, class, and then the state is also part of class. Because the state becomes its own class. Oftentimes in dictatorships, the state becomes the wealthy class. And that's why it's stateless, because that difference creates conflict. The state officials have conflict with those who aren't. Where was I going? What did he just say? Sorry.
Equality is up to end up in the same place. It's not for equality, it's
for equity. Equality.
Equality is opportunity.
It's not for equity. It's what? I feel like it's a nonsense point. It's not for equality, it's for equity. It's for both. So you have food, you have water, you have shelter. You have things that are necessary. You also have some that probably aren't necessary. But I don't get it. Like, what? I'm not even sure what he's trying to say. Like, everybody has the same quality of life? Is that a bad thing? Am I supposed to say that's a bad thing?
Equity is result. The left in America is very close to communism.
The left in America is not at all close to communism. I do think we should want equal results, right? I think we should be able to get equal results in healthcare, in workplace, in life satisfaction. I think it's hard because there's like, whatever. I do think I don't know if that's the goal, but I think we want equal outcomes in the quality of our schooling. Right? Is that a bad thing to want?
Anyway. In that view, they want equity. Everybody should end up in the same.
They're not. They're not at all. The American left is not. Most of them are not close to that. That's why he's saying they're for equity. I think you can do different things. I think some people have steady hands and could be a good surgeon. Some people are smart and can be lawyers and nuclear physicists, and some people are good at interacting with children and making things, and they're good at presenting things. They can be teachers. We all have different abilities. We all have different things that we excel at, even if we can't explain it. In that, That's what makes people think communism can work, because we all have things that we're good at. Some of us are just good at making things. Some of us are good at knitting. Some of us are good at doing jumping jacks to keep the power on. You know, some of us are just good at simple tasks, and that's great. We need people who are good at these things. But yeah, I don't know. I wish the American left was closer. He's saying the American left is communism because they want equity. He didn't say anything about classless, stateless, moneyless. He just said, what even did he say? He said about equity and losing your individuality. My individuality is not the company I work for. My individuality is not the car I own. My individuality is not the pay I make at work. My individuality is the way I interact with people, the things I like doing. You know, like I've spent, there's been weeks before I've spent like 15 hours riding my bike. There was a week where I went, how many miles was it? 500 miles in 4 days or something? 500 miles, 5 days? I didn't get anything from it. Well, you could argue I got some. I got some fitness. Are you into fitness? So yeah, you like, these things are individuality. But it's not the bike that I necessarily like doing, it's getting out. Like, even if you said, well, if you had communism, you wouldn't have a bike, I'd say, okay, cool. It's a fickle, short-term replacement, and I know this. I know it's not a replacement for the relationships I have with my friends or family. Any important thing, it's not worth. If you said, would you rather not be able to ride your bike again or lose a loved one? I would say, you know what? You can take the bike. Sorry. The things I have always lose to the people I know. That's ultimately what I think communism is about. It's about not wasting time producing things for your employer, but producing things that people need. And we all produce things people need. And we can sort of break free of the chains of spending 40 hours a day and continually exploiting the global south. That's also an added benefit. We don't have to use child labor in Brazil to make tobacco. We can. I mean, who needs tobacco? Anyway.
Field, and if they don't, it's proof of racism or sexism.
And earlier in the political compass test, it said there's something about pornography, right? And I'll include other vices like smoking, which I'm going to say, I don't really care. But when these things are made cheaper because of exploitation, there's a cost to everything. If, say, a cigar costed $10,000 because you couldn't use child labor or whatever, it had to be made in the U.S., whatever, it's a hyperbole, it's an example. Less people would be smoking if it was more expensive. I'm just saying. That's why oftentimes to demote, is that the opposite of promote? When the government wants to demote things, they'll tax it heavier. Like Europe does with gas. They pay higher taxes. But when you kind of have a city made for cars, it kind of defeats the whole point, you know? Because when you need gas to go anywhere, you kind of still need to buy it. So But if you want to prevent people from smoking who aren't already addicted, you make it more expensive. Smoking is expensive. Vaping is expensive. I'm not going to do these things because of that reason. You could say, oh, I'll do it once or twice. Fair enough. But be careful of addiction. Alright? Because addiction is real. And addiction is not enjoying a vice. Right? We all enjoy vices. We all have vices, things that maybe we shouldn't do. Maybe every once in a while we gamble. But it's important to keep them in check. Anyway. And these things are not our individuality. I mean, they sort of are, but they're also... Your individuality can be whatever.
Or misogyny or whatever you have. So I hope that helps you.
I don't want to watch debates, okay? Jordan B. Peterson. Dude, I'm just like, dude, I don't. Should I react to this? Oh, I don't even want. I feel like I shouldn't. I feel like it's a bad idea. Do we watch another one? Yeah, I'll watch. How about we watch one about My Hero, huh?
On August 22nd,
I like this ad, eh?
artificial general intelligence was already...
Everything that tries to sell things on this is a scam and wants you to waste your life.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad, and sometimes catastrophic.
Ideas have consequences? Is that what he said?
Ideas have consequences. Sometimes
true. I agree.
Good, sometimes bad, and sometimes catastrophic. Like the ideas of Karl Marx.
Oh, I don't know if I agree.
Born in Trier, Germany in 1818, Marx didn't invent communism, but it was on...
What? I mean, he definitely flushed it out a lot.
On his ideas that Lenin and Stalin built the Soviet Union, Mao built communist China, and innumerable other tyrants, from the Kims in North Korea to the Castros...
They're always tyrants.
...in Cuba, built their communist regimes.
They're always tyrants.
Those regimes of movements calling themselves Marxists murdered about 100 million people and enslaved more than 1 billion.
How many has... What do you mean enslaved? And how many has capitalism killed? Boom. Write that down. But, I mean, I'm sure you've heard this before if you go in these circles, but whenever a guy in capitalism dies, it's their fault. Whenever somebody in communism dies, it's communism's fault. And that's the great thing about capitalism is you can blame the individual all the time for everything. You can just say, they're lazy, that's why. They're a criminal, that's why. That's why they smoked weed once in Florida and got caught and went to jail forever, because they're a scumbag. And you can blame the individual rather than address a societal issue. You can say, oh, that's just one crazy guy with a gun. It's never the fault of the Second Amendment. It's always the fault of, well, that's one crazy guy with a gun. I'd like to know where he got this enslaved more than 1 billion. There have been a lot of deaths, and I'm not going to say there aren't any deaths under communism. Simply not true. For example, Mao in China, when he killed the sparrows and rats and whatever, the pest to locusts, and then locusts destroyed a bunch of crops. I'm also curious how they get the numbers for people who died in events like that. I just genuinely don't know. But also, capitalism has had slavery before. I don't know if you know this. Is it the amount or the idea? What I say by that is slavery is bad. Right? Hot take, slavery, bad. America's still slaves, you could argue, in the prison system. I'm not going to argue that right now because I don't think it matters. But we have had slaves not too long ago, in fact. So just because they had more, does that make it worse? That's my question. And I think the answer is no. The legality of slavery in America is just as much of a stain as the legality of it somewhere else where they didn't have as many, because it's about how brutal that slavery is rather than the amount. Right? If that makes sense. I think that makes sense. I could be wrong. Let me know. Let me know if you think that's a bad take and I said that wrong. But it's the idea, well, and the action that's bad. I think it just says the wealth you have, right? In theory, because you had to buy them. In America, you had to buy them, right? This is kind of also the bank was involved. But anyway.
Marx believed that workers, specifically those who did manual labor, were exploited
Me.
by capitalists.
Based.
People who owned, as Marx put it, the means of production, specifically
Based.
factories, but who did very little physical labor themselves.
Based.
Only a workers' revolution, Marx wrote in Das Kapital, could correct this injustice.
Okay, where's the lie? When does he talk about the lie?
What would that revolution look like?
Right.
Marx
right.
and his collaborator, Friedrich Engels, spelled it out point by point in the Communist Manifesto.
Oh,
It
okay.
included
Yes.
the abolition of property and inheritance. And
That's so bad. They did not. They did not believe in the abolition of property. There's a difference between personal and private, which, I'd hope they get into, but I kind of doubt it. So personal property is like a house, maybe a bit of land, maybe a car, but not like a factory, like owning. I'll just give the example of factory. Owning a factory or a restaurant, inherent, if you have workers there, you're going to be exploiting them. That's the theory. So it's not saying you can't own anything. It's saying you don't have a right to other people's labor.
centralization of credit,
Let's see if he talks in that.
communication, and transport in the hands of the state.
Based communication. I think everyone should have access to communication, and I think it should be good. You could say, but the government is worse at these things. That's not a necessity. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You just figure a way to keep the government good. That's what it's about. It's about being able to be held accountable for that. And that's why some places with dictatorships don't have that, because they're not really able to be held accountable for poor quality communication. And that's why, for example, what is it? Department of State? Secretary of State. The IRS. These things run on ancient systems. They're slow and old because there isn't that accountability. Because when we complain, they don't have to care. And that's why they're decades behind. Not because that's inherent to the government, but just because that's inherent to the way the government's run currently.
And a lot more along the same lines. In other words, the state owns and controls pretty much everything.
That's not true. Again, pretty much just everything that you need access to. Everything that is better if you have access to. Because it's important that you, if you have, let's say, a car, have access to oil and have equal access to oil and have equal access to getting to work. You have equal access to the internet. So you can be just as smart as other people. So you can communicate with your friends, get information as well as everyone else. Everyone can get information as well as each other. That sounds like a good thing. Everyone can have access to having the lights on. Is that such an evil?
This notion was widely discussed and
And you can still own things, by the way. But
debated in European intellectual circles during Marx's lifetime. But nothing
Nice.
much came of it until Vladimir Lenin took power in Russia in 1917.
true.
This changed everything. Despite its repeated economic failures, Lenin's Russia, which became known as the Soviet Union, became the model for
Economic failures like what?
Dictators around. Lenin's Russia, which became known as the Soviet Union, repeated economic failures. Lenin's
What repeated economic failures? Can you tell? Do tell, please. As I recall, I mean, I don't think they were doing very good under the Tsar that was there. So I don't know. I don't know what repeated. I think there were some, right? But it's hard when you don't. I think this is a good point. It's hard when you. Obviously, I'm saying it. It's hard when you don't have any power to become someone in power. I don't think this is an excuse necessarily. But this was a place that didn't have any ability to influence anything. And then all of a sudden they are in charge, and it's a tough thing to do. No doubt. It's like making me president. Like I'd be like, it's like making me a dictator. No, not exactly. I'm sure Lenin is a lot smarter, has a lot more years, a lot more whatever under his belt. And I'd probably do a much worse job. It's like making me a dictator. Not gonna go well. Well, it might go better than it's currently going, but I don't think I'll be in power very long.
Russia, which became known as the Soviet Union, became the model for dictators around the world.
But it'd be nice if you said what they were instead of a 5-minute video, but whatever.
Wherever Marx's ideas were practiced, life got worse. Not by a little.
Because they became a target by the wealthy countries.
But by a lot. There's not a single exception to this rule. Not the Soviet Union.
I think you're wrong, A. You think the Soviet Union, this guy thinks the Soviet Union was worse, well, during the Soviet Union, than during the Tsarist rule? Are you sure, man? Are you sure? I wouldn't be too confident on that one.
Not Eastern Europe, not
China did it? Are we sure? I don't know. Is that like a song? Underdevelopment and division. Okay, sounds like, oh, warlord rule, widespread poverty, illiteracy. No, these things are better. Come on, China, you should be happy. You should be happy in the warlord era. You should be happy in a divided state. There's a reason it was called like the era of humiliation. Headhunting rituals, that's good. Women treated as property and denied education, that's much better than the way China is now. Civil War? No, that's a good thing. Bunch of fragmented states? Come on, that's a good thing. That's much better than now. What a guy.
China, not North Korea, not.
Are we sure? I mean, it's hard to tell. They're kind of closed off. But also, a lot of it, I think, in my opinion, comes from the embargoes we set on these places. The aggression we send towards these places. It could be one Korea by now, actually, if we didn't install a puppet government in South Korea. Maybe it could be unified. Maybe it could be a joyous country, you know? But always, the U.S. has to intervene, especially when it comes to North Korea. After, like, World War II, when America became the global superpower, we just destroyed these countries. We didn't give them a chance to fail. We just said, we're going to make sure you fail, and we're going to install puppet governments and try to overthrow you every chance we get. Doesn't seem like giving them a chance to succeed to me. Let me Google this also. Oh, like right before? Like when Japan owned Korea? Is that what we're talking about? And then it became a political playground? I don't know if that's I don't know if communism is the reason North Korea is the way it is. It's kind of sad.
Not Vietnam, not Cuba.
I don't think Vietnam was better off under French rule. I'm sorry to say. Is that what he's saying? Is he saying these places where they were just slaves and they couldn't own anything on their land were better off before they could? Does this guy not know anything about these places? Like, I'm by no means am I an expert, right? By no means. And maybe that's why. Maybe you're saying, come on, Lawrence, you're a fool. Are we talking about Cuba? As I recall, they did a little slave revolt. Deep poverty in the countryside. They didn't have, I don't think they had like any hospitals. Now, some of the best doctors in the world. Despite America's efforts to blockade them. Despite our sanctions on Cuba, they've done pretty well. I mean, you're telling me they were better before. I mean, maybe do some research, buddy. Especially on these two. Vietnam was so much better when it was getting, well, that was because of, it was kind of because of communism that got napalm. So if you think about it, just kidding. That was America. America did that. We can't blame communism in Vietnam on them getting napalmed. Right? It's like the guy trying to blame the genocide in Gaza on Hamas. That's a hot topic. Yeah, Vietnam, you should have been happy when you were brutalized by the French. Come on. What were you complaining? They gave you roads. What more do you want? You can't have it all.
Cuba, not Venezuela, not
Venezuela, if different issues.
Bolivia, not
In the
Zimbabwe.
sixth one. Are we sure? I mean, I don't know the history of many of these. But if I recall correctly, America installed the puppet government. Deeply impoverished. Colonial rule. Military strongmen. Bolivian independence from Spain. And then I believe, they found tin. They wanted to, military coup. Very interesting. A brief period of stability ended in a 1920 coup, which brought Republican Party to power. I wonder who did that coup. How do you spell coup? I'm just kidding. Oh, we also tried one in 2024. US-backed coup again? Very interesting. Who'd have thought, man? Doesn't sound like failure. It sounds like they were pushed to failure by the U.S. And it doesn't sound like most of these were worse off before communism. Let's just say that. No, come on. It's better when the government has access to all the resources of these countries and can take it for themselves. Well, the government of capitalists. No, it's better when corporations get all the money. Come on.
Wherever Marxism goes, economic collapse, terror.
Because, well, not always. I would say left on its own, probably not. But when America follows, because the problem is where Marxism goes, America follows. We can't leave these countries alone.
Famine follow. So, if
Terror, what does that mean? Oh, right. Right, terror, that's a real thing.
cataclysmic failure, meaning terrible human suffering, is
You didn't describe any of that. You just said these places failed without providing anything meaningful. And from 2 seconds of research, looks like you're
the
wrong.
inevitable legacy of Marxism. Why do so many people, and now especially young people, defend it?
Because we're
The
based.
most common
we're
answer
based, that's
Marxism's
why.
advocates offer is that they, whoever they are, Lenin, Stalin, Chavez, never really practiced Marxism.
I'm not going to say that. Look, I think they were flawed, but we all are. We're all flawed. Everything's flawed. I don't know who Chavez was. Hugo? I don't know. The fun is, I will say, if you're saying, oh, communism, well, it wasn't true communism in theory, but I mean, socialism isn't also in theory a step to communism, but also can be considered something else. But
They all
listen,
somehow got it wrong.
I mean, yes, but not all countries did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I think the dictatorship parts are bad, but that's often what happens when your country is brought up in struggle. When you need something done quickly, and you need quick decisions made, that's what dictatorships are. Unfortunately, they're necessary. I don't know, necessary, but they're easier to instill in times of turmoil, and that's what it seems often predates these revolutions. Is times of violent turmoil, and then a bit of peace until America tries to coup them, or they get sanctioned by the most powerful country on the planet, USA. It was better before. No. It was worse before and worse after. How does that make sense? Some places, they did have struggles. China, Russia, they had famines. True. But sometimes these things happen anyway. And that doesn't mean it's always going to fail. If you're afraid to try something a second time, it's like, does this saying apply to being gay? You gotta try something 3 times before you know you like it. The first is, I don't know, to get over the fear. The second is something else. And then the third is to see if you really like it. Right. So I think it can succeed here because we have, hopefully, we continue to have a decent history of democracy. And I think some of Europe has that, a decent history of democracy, republics. And I think that's a good key base to have to start communism or socialism. I think a country like the U.S., I don't know right now, well, sure right now, could, I think, succeed. Call me an optimist, call me an idealist. I think we could succeed because we have roots of some democracy, of some republic. I don't know what the proper terminology of it is. I think we could succeed. So that's why young people are like it, and they see capitalism doesn't help anyone at all, ever. Unless you're wealthy, then it helps you. If you're Jeffrey Epstein, it helps you. If you're a turbo criminal sex pest, it helps you. because you can pay your way out of even going to jail or going to a bad jail.
Marxism, we are told, is
Anyway.
at its essence about sharing what we have,
True based.
from each according to his ability to each according to his needs, as Marx.
Based.
Maybe that sounds good to you, but what does it mean? Who determines ability? Who determines need?
Is this guy stupid? I'll tell you. You need food, water, shelter. Companionship? Is that the other one? What's community? You need those like 4 things: food, water, shelter, community. I just determined them. There you go. Is that what you wanted? Ability. You kind of determine that actually. Who do you think determines it? You determine it right now, but you also base that based off the way you want to live life. You know. You say, "Oh, I would like to do this, but I have to become an accountant to whatever, afford to live here. I have to become a lawyer, doctor, whatever." I think people who want to do these things and are good at these things should want to do them, not somebody who wants to make money. I don't think it... Yes, I do think that. I don't need to add a caveat to it. I think if you would be good at it, it would be good for you to do. Simple as that. Money, I don't think should come into play. Unfortunately, it does. But I want a doctor who likes being a doctor, not who likes the paycheck. Do you? It's like hiring hitmen to be bodyguards. It's like, well, sure, you pay, but what happens when someone pays them more? My nose itches. I should get going to bed soon. Okay. Let's go back.
The answer is the state.
None of my answers were the state. I said me for one. I figured them out. But you could also figure them out. I mean, you're smart, probably. Yeah.
The ruling elite.
I figured them out in 2 seconds. That's all it took me.
All the power. That's
The theory is we are the state in Marxism. So yeah.
why the truth is this. Marxist dictators like Lenin, Mao, and Pol Pot really
Bringing up Pol Pot now. Interesting. You didn't bring up Cambodia earlier. Did you notice that? Actually, that's very interesting. I feel like the one spot you could argue got worse was, I don't know if it's true. I don't know what they were like before. Would be Cambodia. It's kind of funny he didn't mention that one. But they were after the Vietnam War, right? What? The United States supported the Khmer Rouge. Fun fact. What? Is this true? Encouraged the government of China to provide military support for the Khmer Rouge when Vietnam invaded? Related allegations by several sources which claim that the U.S. directly armed the Khmer Rouge in order to maintain the influence of Vietnam and the Soviet Union in southeast Afghanistan. When will we learn? When will we learn? When will America learn that it destroys? Everything it touches, it destroys. We funded one of the worst regimes in Cambodia history. Oh, don't worry. These allegations have been disputed by the U.S. government and by journalist Nate Thayer, who argued that little, if any, American aid actually reached the Khmer Rouge. Economic scholar Peter McGuire writes that the U.S. gave $85 million to the Khmer Rouge between 1980 and 1986. I mean, 85 million, nothing? Yeah, but arguing little, if any, reached them, they still sent it. Right? During the critical years of 79 and 80. That is crazy. Is that after? So that was when they were in power of Cambodia. I mean, that's a bummer. I think it was pretty good before. Oh, it was French colonialism. And then the Vietnam War. Dang, that's a bad time. And that's a bad time. Anyway.
Did get Marxism right.
It's just interesting they mentioned it now. It is horrific.
Absolute power, and Marxism gave them the way to get it.
I mean, sort of. I think they believed in it. I think also it's hard to... I think it appeals, this specific ones, appeals to people like Stalin. Not exactly the kindest guy to his political rivals, I've heard.
Karl Marx...
Because they think they know what's best for the people, and they don't have these... Because they think they know, right? And so they don't have these votes or whatnot.
Never had to face the consequences of his theories. He lived most of his adult life breathing the free air of London, England, living off the generosity of his collaborator and patron, Ingalls, who, as it happens, inherited his money from his wealthy merchant father.
So? Okay. These guys had wealth. This is going to take me forever to watch this. These guys had wealth because, and that's why they critiqued it. You know, you can only critique something if you're homeless. What kind of theory? I know it's like silly. This is like a silly, non-serious. It's good, non-serious video. They're just saying things. Hope you believe them.
In the reading room of the British Museum, researching and
He was researching and writing? That's almost like what philosophers do.
writing. Although he was obsessed with the term scientific, he was never able to marshal data to prove his theories. There's a good reason for this. There was no data.
What data proves any of... What data proves... Dude, my haircut. I hate my hair. What data proves capitalism?
To prove his theories. For all his time in the library, Marx couldn't find any evidence to suggest that capitalism, the free exchange of goods and services through privately owned business, was a passing phase.
What? What is this? They would have said the same thing about capitalism during feudalism. Like, come on. Come on. I've been ordained by God to lead you. You're telling me you'd rather be enslaved by your boss? Come on, I'm the king.
Throughout the industrial age, working conditions constantly improved and wealth expanded. Marx...
I noticed you said throughout. Can we go back?
Throughout the Industrial
Revolution and its consequences have been disastrous for the human race. So if you're saying throughout the Industrial Age, they did improve. Compared to before the Industrial Age, it might have been worse.
Age, working conditions constantly
It might have been
improved
worse.
and wealth expanded.
Health-wise.
Marx had to rely on
I can't
outdated
lie.
reports to make his case. And even then, he had to manipulate the
What? Dude, what? This guy's just rambling. This guy's not
data
saying
to get it to
anything.
conform to his predetermined...
This guy's saying, believe me, trust me. Believe me, trust me. Working conditions constantly improved. Why do you think that is? I think it's because of the hard work of leftists everywhere that they improved. The hard work of unions, the hard work of government compliance organizations, like, I don't know, OSHA? Even though sometimes you could argue they get in the way and they're kind of annoying. But they still help improve expectations. Like, I cannot follow OSHA at work. Maybe. They just gotta, they can't. They can't tell me to not follow OSHA. I can choose to. Own volition.
Theories. But Marx really had no interest in proving his theories. He knew that they could be put into practice only by brute force. He said so himself. Of course, in the beginning, communism cannot be effected except by a means of despotic inroads, he wrote. His ends could be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. All existing social conditions.
When does the quote
religion,
end?
Family.
Okay, the quote already ended. Religion and family are super closely tied together. Oh, wait. Whatever. Yes, because the capitalists, the bourgeoisie, as Marx would call them, do not give up their wealth freely by choice. They do not do that. Oh wait, that's why I'm listening to it. They don't do it by choice. They need to be forced to. That's how it works. You're gonna be like, yes, here you go. Capitalism will not die quietly. The rich will die.
He said
the rich will go kicking and screaming. Not about them dying, but usually they're afraid to be separated from their wealth. Some people are so poor, all they have is money. Think about that one.
So himself. Of course, in the beginning, communism cannot be effected except by a means of despotic inroads.
So that was all he said. So that's just the way it is. Feudalism wasn't overthrown by doing nothing. Think about France. French Revolution. I think that was very kind of them. You would probably say that's good. Not all violence is bad. Some is necessary. For example, when you're overthrowing a brutal regime, I think it's necessary. If violence is always bad, then protecting yourself, is that violence? It's bad? That's what you're saying it like.
His ends could be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions.
Is this something he said? That's not, your family isn't, I mean, it sort of is, but it's like,
all existing social conditions.
Your family
That's
isn't
religion, family,
like
personal possessions, freedom, and democracy. They
not democracy. Freedom is a kind of a made up thing. And how come we're the only ones who are free? Capitalism doesn't free anybody. What am I free from? Religion. I think he's just making things up. So if you are religious, you're like, well, I don't want that. So you're a family guy? I don't want that. You know what? I like my family. Yeah, we all do. It's not saying you get rid of your family. That's not at all what this is saying. Personal possessions, you can also have those. I hate to say it, this guy doesn't know anything. You can, Marx thought, you can have personal possessions. He's not anti-personal possessions. You could be. I don't care. But you're not Marx. So, you didn't write the theory, honey. Honey, you didn't write the theory.
In order to achieve Marx's vision of an earthly paradise. But since few people give up their liberties
and if we listen to him, the polar ice caps wouldn't be melting.
Property voluntarily,
the Palestinians wouldn't be getting genocided by Israel. Ukraine wouldn't be getting invaded by Russia. Sorry.
Creating a Marx. But since few people give up their liberties and
What liberties? What liberties? What liberties do you have to give up?
My liberty to start a bakery.
If it's socialism, you can still do that. You can still make food to feed people. It's not like illegal under Marxism. Property, you can still have property. Learn the difference between personal and private property, honey. Okay? Okay? Sorry, I'm being
property
really
voluntarily.
bitchy. I will. But, like, I'm willing. If you said, hey, give me your car, and we will have communism in America. I'd say, yes, sir. You said, give up your house. I'd say, I don't have a house. Give up your bike. I'd say, okay. Give up your Second Amendment. Okay. Give up your made-up liberty that we don't actually have. What even is a liberty? It's like a made-up thing. Are you talking to Liberty Bell? I could give that up. What is the definition of liberty? The state of being free from oppressive restrictions and able to act according to one's own will. That's like a made-up thing. So I can act on one's own will? Okay, I'll kill someone. Not actually. That's an hyperbole. But the point is, liberty should not be at the expense of others. Boom, write that down. There are oppressive restrictions from my workplace. So yeah, liberty doesn't really exist. It's kind of like made up. So be like, I have liberty. I'm free from oppressive restrictions and able to act according to one's own will. Buddy, you barely do.
Creating a Marxist state has always required guns, prisons, and summary executions.
Good thing capitalism hasn't, am I right? We don't have any guns, prisons, or executions. And we never have. So that's a good thing. Oh, wait. What are you talking about guns? You're talking about violence? Congrats. There's like 400 million guns in America. Oh, more than 400 million civilian-owned firearms. Sounds like those. We also have the biggest prison population. We have about 16,500 prisons. $1.23 million. 96% of them serving sentences more than 1 year. I mean, hey, that sounds like prisons to me.
Marx's many disciples from Lenin on never considered this a problem.
What are
Some,
you
like
talking about?
revolutionary poster boy Che Guevara, considered it a bonus. I don't need proof to execute a man, Che is said to have boasted. I only need proof that it's necessary to execute him.
I don't know what that means. What do you say? I don't need
He is
proof.
said to have boasted. I only need proof that it's necessary to
That's a very, very interesting quote. I don't know.
execute him.
Okay. What? Isn't that like the same thing? I don't need proof to execute a man. I only need proof that it's necessary to execute him. Isn't that better? Because he's saying, I don't need proof. I need proof that it's necessary. That's based. That's based. It's a based quote. He's saying, I don't need proof to execute a man. I need proof it's necessary. Look at what they highlight. Like, I don't need proof to execute a man.
Jay is said to have boasted. I only need proof that it's necessary to execute him.
Necessary to execute. So if it's not necessary... Interesting. Interesting. It could be taken either way. In my opinion, he's saying, you gotta prove to me it's necessary, and he can't be helped and rehabilitated. He's saying, I don't care if he's guilty, I care that if it's necessary. That's based. There's nothing wrong with that quote.
If you're still a fan of Marxism after all the death, suffering, and destruction it's caused,
What if you're still a fan of capitalism after all the death, destruction, and suffering it's caused? I mean, sounds like you're the bigger fool. And, this is coming from me, you have a bad haircut. You had 70 years to figure out a good haircut, and this is what you come up with? I mean, look who's pouting. Look who's joyous.
that's your right. But own up to it. Don't hide behind the "it's never really been tried" line. It has.
It hasn't. It hasn't without American intervention. I'll say that.
I'm Paul Kengor, professor of political science at Grove City College for Prager University.
This guy is dumb as beans. My country, Albania, made his ideology reality. In 1992, we ended up as second poorest country in the world after Angola. What? Only people who like... Okay, I shouldn't read these comments. True. Communism is when no iPhone. Karl Marx. He was German. This did not age well. This comment did not age well. They didn't. I don't think. Oh, they might have, but I think they're currently suffering awful things. People in the U.S. are indoctrinated in schools because our government is trying to gradually take us into communism. The kids don't know. The parents don't know. Oh, I could write more, but I'm not going to. Dude, no, these people are making things up. We had a lot of teachers that instead of teach about the class, spend the entire 2 hours speaking of how bad capitalism is and how awesome is communism. Base teacher? Why is that bad? And I don't think that's true. I never had one teacher try to tell me anything near communism is good. They would say, yeah, capitalism has its issues. They might have admitted that, but they would never said communism is great. They should have. You think I learned about anything in school? Okay, I am gonna play that game.
What I did instead was return to what I regarded as the original cause of all the trouble, let's say, which was the Communist Manifesto.
That's a crazy line. Hope you guys enjoyed. I kind of did. You know, I rambled a lot. I thought I was going to read more about this, but it's so complex. There's so much to it. The words are so big about this. The words are so big. Like, why do we need all that? So anyway, I'd like to thank you for spending time here. I don't know when I'll be live next, and I don't know what you can expect, but I hope you can be here. If not, I'll be doing other based things like overthrowing, I don't know, whatever joke you want to make, you can say it. I hope that you have a good night and a good day, and I hope you stay optimistic about, you don't have to stay optimistic. I hope you're just still a good guy, a decent guy to be around for most people. You know, you can have some people you argue with, some people you will be pessimistic and honest to. But I think, listen, if the world continues the way it is today, you got to live it. You know, just do what you can to maybe change things for the better, to help out. That's kind of why I went live today. Because instead of gaming, it just feels better to maybe help someone. Maybe help change the world in a way I see as being better. Even though, whatever. I may not know everything, and I may change my opinions over time. Today's stream was honest, and I can tell you that one. So, thanks for stopping by, and see ya.